Years later, what hidden secrets did this woman discover about her husband? Their marriage lasted way over a decade. Imagine investing all that time and emotion and finding out that everything you thought you knew was a lie. This is the story of Audrey Phillips, the widow of Glyndwyr, and how she discovered years after his demise that he was an entirely different person than she thought he was. Audrey Phillips lived a simple life as a retired economics teacher. She adored her husband and always thought of him as one of the best decisions she had ever made in life. They weren't wealthy, but she was content with their life and everything they had. So it came as a huge blow when everything she thought about their easy life turned out to be false. Their marriage that would last for years began in a bar. All it took was one glance and they both fell in love. From then on, life took a different turn. Never was a story of a love so complex. According to Audrey, when she met Glyndwyr, she felt he had a mysterious air around him, but she quickly felt very comfortable and relaxed in his presence. There was, of course, the way he looked at her like she was the only girl in the world. It wasn't long before she couldn't wait to be in his presence all the time. To Audrey and Glyndwyr, they were both experiencing the love of their lives. Never before had they felt for another what they were feeling. They went together on several dates exploring the city. Even though Glyndwyr tended to disappear on private business, he always found time to be with her. Their love grew, and soon they were married. To them and everyone else, theirs was a match made in heaven. She was positive she knew her husband better than anyone else. A few months into their marriage, they got huge news from the doctor. This news changed their lives. Audrey felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. She immediately rushed to the emergency room for a visit to a doctor. This was just some months after they got married. Around this time, Glyndwyr had just returned from one of his private businesses. After examining her, the doctor looked at them both and paused. He had some important news to share. He informed the young couple that they were having a new baby. They received this news with great joy and a deep sigh of relief. She gave birth to a healthy son whom they named Jake. They had created a happy and loving home together. Audrey was very comforted by the love Glyndwyr had for her. He often, however, went on mysterious trips, but she never doubted his feelings for her and their family. He was always gentle with their child, but sometimes she found herself wondering what he did on his mysterious trips. Something strange happened one day. Glyndwyr went for a walk, something that wasn't unusual for him. But unlike other times, he returned home this time looking agitated. He then informed Audrey that the family would have to relocate to a different neighborhood within a week. Audrey was momentarily disoriented by this news. She didn't want to move, and definitely not so suddenly. They had made a lot of wonderful memories and made lasting relationships in their neighborhood. She kept wondering what may have led to his decision. While the couple was trying to navigate the waters of their crisis, another trouble presented itself. It happened that while Audrey was trying to argue with Glyndwyr in the doorway that their abrupt move was a bad idea, she felt a stinging pain in her abdomen. She found out from the doctor that she was pregnant for the second time. It was a baby girl this time around, but there was a catch. Having the baby would mean that the couple wouldn't have another child due to complications. What would they choose? The young couple chose to have their baby. This, however, meant that they couldn't relocate as planned. This is because Audrey's pregnancy was high risk, so travel wasn't an option. Audrey could tell that Glyndwyr wasn't happy with the turn of events. However, it wasn't long that he picked up from where Audrey had left off due to her condition. He catered for their family and young son in the months Audrey was bedridden. His mysterious visits were reduced too. One day, Glyndwyr gave her some news. He told her that he had changed his mind about his decision to move. He didn't want them to make the move again. His reason? That they had 2 children now and needed all the support they could get in raising them. She found his behavior strange and was left feeling confused. Audrey and Glyndwyr lived a good part of 50 years in relative harmony. However, another challenge came in form of deterioration in Glyndwyr's health. He started experiencing difficulty in walking and his hands started shaking. Due to the symptoms he was experiencing, he decided to go to the hospital to see a doctor. The doctor told him he had Parkinson's. It devastated Audrey to hear of her husband's prognosis. She decided to make the most of the time they had together. Glyndwyr's health declined terribly. He often deliberated telling his wife about his secret and wondered if he should tell Audrey before it was too late. He didn't get the chance. He passed away with Audrey still in dark about his secret life. This wasn't the only bad news to come. Several people who knew him were saddened by his departure. He was generally regarded as a family man who catered diligently to the needs of his family by working as a civil engineer. They all loved him, but it turned out they didn't know the actual Glyndwyr. Audrey was having a hard time dealing with the departure of her husband, so much so that she couldn't find in her the courage to clear his belongings. But things couldn't be left this way forever. She would eventually have to do something with his belongings in the house. It took 3 years for Audrey to finally muster up the courage to clear her husband's belongings. It was difficult for Audrey because the old memories she had tried to bury rise to the surface as she cleared his things. At this juncture, she had cleared everything, and only one drawer was remaining. The drawer remaining to be cleared was Glyndwyr's office drawer. Aside from his job as a civil engineer, he loved to write. He often retreated to his study, where he wrote several novels and poems. Audrey would soon discover if his writings were indeed in his drawer. They both had shared everything in the course of their marriage. However, this drawer was something she had never paid attention to. Now she was curious as to what she would discover in the drawer. When she opened the drawer, she saw some strange-looking documents that piqued her interest. They were old documents Glyndwyr had never told her about. To make matters worse, the documents had a strange name. She didn't know whose name it was. Of the several documents she found, one of them stated that the boy who had taken this test had outstanding memory, that he had a good memory, especially in remembering pictures and maps. A photographic memory, it said. So what did this have to do with her husband? While still searching, she found another document in the drawer. This one was a letter. It stated that a decision was taken to pull the boy out of school. The latter was dated. They stated that the choice to pull him out of school was due to his photographic memory. From Audrey's estimation, she deduced that her husband was 13 years old at the time. This was the same age as the boy in the letter at the time. Initially, she thought it should be a friend of his, but she became suspicious. She continued to search the document for any new information she could find. She wanted to know more about the boy in question. As she neared the bottom of the pile of papers, she came across an even stranger-looking document. The document she found was about a secret operation called XX, and a counter-espionage project. She couldn't decipher what it was about and what this meant to her husband. She then discovered a little note with a telephone number. What would it lead to? Audrey suspected that the telephone number would lead to a clue as to what she had seen. However, she was adamant to unravel what she had read. A silent voice told her that this could alter her perception of her late husband. But she was far too gone now. Audrey spent days consumed by her decision. Her husband's secret drawer had always intrigued her. What was inside, and why had he never mentioned it? Would he be upset if she sought the truth now? Finally, she made up her mind. She dialed the mysterious number she had found among his documents. No one answered. Later that night, her phone rang. "Am I speaking with Audrey Phillips?" A calm voice inquired. "Yes," she replied. "I found your number among my husband's papers. Maybe you can help me understand." "Let's meet tomorrow," the man said. "I'll explain everything." The next day, an old man arrived at her home. "Audrey, I worked with your husband for over 30 years. There's something he never told you. Glyndwyr wasn't the man you thought he was." He explained, Glyndwyr was incredibly gifted. The government saw his potential early and recruited him for a special program. Only our fathers knew. We trained for years, learning German, undergoing memory tests, without knowing what awaited us. When World War II began, we received our first real assignment. He described their dangerous work, infiltrating enemy prisons through underground tunnels, gaining the trust of German POWs, and extracting critical intelligence. The war ended, but their missions continued. Our captain had new plans. We underwent further training, living double lives. We had to create families, making it appear we were ordinary men. But in reality, we were operatives, sent on covert intelligence missions. We weren't James Bond, but we took enormous risks. Their first mission was simple, tracking spies within an army camp. If successful, they earned 20 pounds, but the jobs grew more perilous. Glyndwyr once had to extract a fellow spy from a boat transporting illegal arms. He had to take out a searchlight on a gunboat and ensure neither of them was captured. "You remember that football weekend right after you married?" the man asked with a knowing smile. "That wasn't a football trip. He came back bruised because of this mission." Audrey was stunned. How had she never suspected a thing? A flood of questions overwhelmed her, but before she could ask, the man handed her a note. She unfolded it, her hands trembling. It was a letter from Glyndwyr, written just for her. "Dear Audrey, if you're reading this, you've discovered my biggest secret. I could never tell you, but I did it to protect you. I hope you understand." Alongside the letter was something else, a check, a massive sum. Glyndwyr had saved every penny he earned as a spy, ensuring it would go to her after his passing. It was the reason they had always lived a modest life. It was his way of making amends. Audrey made her choice. She donated all the money to veteran relief. Proud of her husband's sacrifices, she now tells her grandchildren about his courageous secret life. The family continues to honor his memory, keeping his legacy alive.